Hey, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm doing it very informal tonight, guys. It's just going to be you guys and me just watching TV together. And I'm in my bedroom, of all places, because this is where I'm most comfortable. Yeah, I've got the sex lights behind me. I got my TV in front of me. And for those of you, yeah, sex lights in my mom's basement. Um, I am not going to be showing, for anybody of you who might misunderstand, I'm not showing the show. I'm not streaming it live. I'm streaming me watching it. And you're probably going to hear a lot of Brant's rants if Paul and Jean decides to rewrite history. Yeah, there's the lights behind me. You might want to turn them off. They're kind of messing with the camera a little bit. Yeah, just a little. But Ozzy's finishing up. I caught the last little bit of this. I was swimming a little bit in the pool before I came in. And sex lights, too much information. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Nah, yeah, they're just lights. They're just decorative. Finishing up the Ozzy thing. And, I was just telling my wife, Ozzy's going to die on stage. I mean, that man's pretty much never going to retire. And you got to love that about Ozzy. I don't have high expectations for this. I hope that, I hate to say that, but I hope that I am proven wrong. And I hope that this is just great and amazing. I know that Ace and Peter aren't a part of it, but I read different things saying that they were offered to be a part of it. They turned it down. And Peter supposedly turned down $1 million from Paul to not have Beth included in it, which I kind of get that because, he asked for more money and some people got on to him about that. But, hey, more power to him, So we'll just have to see what happens. And I wasn't going to do this at first. And my wife asked me earlier today if I was going to do it. And I was like, well, people asked me to do it. And she's like, well, if people have asked you to do it, even if it's one person, you should do it. Because you never know who's sitting at home and doesn't have anybody to interact with. And I know that, so I put it out there on social media today asking if people wanted me to do it. And they said, yeah. So I see there are several of us here, and I see some familiar faces, Dark Light and Mike and Emily and Tom and Tales of Kiss Geek. See Glenn there. So, so it's getting started here in a couple minutes, and there's going to be times I'm not talking, guys, because I'm just going to be watching. I'm going to be watching along with you, and you may hear me interject some things like I would normally do if I'm sitting here watching TV by myself or with my wife. I might interject some things, and definitely going to be talking it up during the commercials. Yeah, Emily, it's cool. I know you got your thing going on that you're live tweeting and watching. That's fine too. If anybody's interested in what I'm drinking, I'm drinking a brown brown ale from Catawba Brewery. That's what I'm drinking to start, and then I'll be drinking water to finish. A drinking game, yeah. Drink.
Time, take a shot every time.
Paul or Jean tells a lie. Rewrites history. I'll be drunk by 30 minutes in. I'll be drunk 30 minutes into it. So here we go. Cracking this one and getting started in just a minute. So if you got your beers or your beverage with you, cheers. And here we go for the next couple hours. Finishing up the Ozzy thing right now. I'm going to keep an eye on the comments. I'm sorry if I miss your comment. I'll try to scroll up and catch them during the commercials. You wanted the best. Here we go. It's 9 o'clock, so Ozzy wrapping up. And here we go. I do admire Ozzy though. I've not always been a hardcore Ozzy fan. I was hardcore during like um, the 80s, mid 80s. But I just after that, I just kind of fell off. All right, here we go, guys. Biography history begins now. Here we go. Strong language. There's Ace and Peter. That is the soundtrack shouted out loud from Kiss Alive 2. Anybody notice that? That's Kiss Alive 2. Harlequin Lover. Dave Grohl. Yep, that's Alive 2 for sure. Super Kiss. I expect them to go to commercial. Oh, that's cool. That rewind. Oh, they're going way back. Got to admire that woman. Never seen that photo. Wouldn't it be awesome if they went into Ace's and Peter's story right now? That we had Ace and Peter to hear from? That would be awesome. But that's not what we're going to get. They didn't like each other at first. Huh. Oh, really? I love that song. All of our heads are nodding right now. Look at you. My uncle is a raft. Mr. Kramer. They already mentioned Steve Cornell. Ken Sharp. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, I same David Letudo. I'm sorry I pronounce word names bad, but thank you so much. Madrid. I love Madrid too. I hope to visit someday. Man, I'm glad they didn't stay. Wicked Lester. And okay. All right. So first commercial. Let's hear the thoughts. So okay. So of course we have no Ace and Peter. It would be nice to have heard their story by now, but now Ace and Peter wasn't in the story yet. So it would be good for Ace and Peter to be getting in. Peter tell his story because Peter came in shortly after they broke Wicked Lester up, and there was the three of them. It was Paul, Gene, and Peter. Dark Light. They followed trends later too. Yes, they did. But it would be nice. We know that's not what we're going to get. I'm curious to see because they're going to mention Ace and Peter coming up. They're going to have to. But we won't get to hear the story from Ace and Peter. They haven't rewritten History yet. I keep waiting on them to do that. I think that was a good opening segment. I agree with that. Solar Garlic. Solar Garlic says that was a great opening segment, and I do agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Flowing pretty good so far, Dark Light. Yep, I agree. And they did mention Steve Cornell, that he was in the band, and so far it's been pretty accurate. They didn't stick too long in their individual past, and so far it's begun them. And I'm glad that they mentioned because they initially said that they were great, and then they came back and said, because if you know Gene and Paul's initial history meeting, they did not like each other, but they did mention that Paul thought Gene was arrogant and couldn't write songs, and Gene had this chip on his shoulder towards Paul, like, "Oh, you're a songwriter," because Gene didn't know any other songwriters. So I think it's Darklight says Peter and Ace will be represented. I think they'll be used. They will use old interviews from Ace and Peter. Maybe. Oh, that's cool. A&E retweeted your tweet and added to it. That's awesome, Emily. I'm glad that they're doing that for you. Seems like I remember reading in the KISS bio on the end of Wicked Lester, their equipment got stolen. I think their equipment gets stolen from their rehearsal loft once they form KISS. And when Peter was in the band, it was still they were still kind of calling themselves, when Peter first joined, they were still kind of calling themselves Wicked Lester. It was when they got Ace in the band, when they decided to really change the name of the band. They were still calling themselves, And Jerome says, I'm surprised they would mention Cornell in light of his crimes. Yeah, I mean, I think they're just acknowledging that Stephen Cornell was in the band, and it was, Stephen Cornell was instrumental in how they met. So regardless of where that is now, the past is, had it not been for Stephen Cornell, who knows if Gene and Paul would have actually met. And we might not have had KISS if Gene and Paul would have just took the money that got offered to Wicked Lester, we might not have had Kiss. Who knows? So yeah, so I think so far it is really good. Um, I'm 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 pleasantly surprised right now at this point, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes from here on out. Emily says my mom is watching too. By the way, she says, "Hey, uh, tell her I said hi to Mama Sandy, and I hope she's enjoying this as well." I hope you guys don't mind me interjecting things when I see something because I'm trying not to talk too much. Um, but you might hear me bust out and say, like, if they say something, be like, bullshit, or whatever. Who knows? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think we're getting ready to come back to it right here in a second. So we're 20 minutes in. Here we go. Ace and Peter declined to participate in the creation of this documentary and do not endorse the views.
So I went to university upstate New York, and I think I remember saying, I'm going to go up there and start a band. And you, in essence, said, I'm coming with you. Remember that? Why the hell would you want to do that? Because I knew I was stronger with you. And even if you didn't quite see at that point that you were stronger with me, quite honestly, I was more concerned with me. And it was better to have you with me than me alone. For Gene and I, it was almost unspoken what needed to be done. We started to fall over again with new songs that were being written fast. New, stronger, all these songs that felt finally right. We made it
a Firehouse he wrote when he was 16. And they did reuse some of the songs from Wicked Lester all the way up to the Dress to Kill album. She was on Dress to Kill.
Change it. I really couldn't see the hottest band in the land featuring Stanley Eisen and Chaim Vince. I remember him saying, I'm going to be Paul Stan. Paul Stan, that's interesting. And I remember turning around saying, and I'm going to be Gene Simmons, just like that. So Gene and I wrote all these new songs, and now we needed a band. And I remember Paul, I saw that in Rolling Stone, and I made a phone call on a payphone. Hi, how you doing? I'm Gene Simmons, and I'm looking for Peter Criscola. Peter Criss played in a lot of local bands in New York City.
Looked like a lot of Beatlesque bands, jazz bands.
To make it, and I think he was ready to throw in the towel if he didn't make it with Paul and Gene. I got this crazy call from the bass player Gene. He goes, "Are you skinny?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, yes, yeah. Would you like to wear makeup? Would you do anything? Would you wear a dress on stage?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Anything you make." And he goes, "Well, come on, dude."
At least they had that interview.
Big chords, big riffs. It was good enough for you. It was good enough for Henderson. And Peter had that whiskey voice, so he could speak on harmony as well. So we rehearsed as a trio, but it didn't feel yet like the full sound. We need a lead guitarist. I put an end to the Village Voice. Lead guitarist wanted with Flash.
Here we go. Hey, Tom.
The Village Voice wouldn't let us say.
Hey, Sandy.
So it became Flash and Ability. And we had everybody come down. And towards the end of audition, this kid, but he walked in, kind of sauntered in, not very steady on his feet, one orange sneaker, one red sneaker, and he plugged in.
While the other guy was still playing.
They played some in the Stoops. Yeah, they just said, we're going to play the songs in the key of A, tuned down half step, of course. And I just jammed and played every riff I knew.
The kid started playing, and I knew right then and there that we had it. Not because we were great, but there was something sonically happening. The four of us got together, and there was something going on that was undeniable. The
You bet your
song
ass.
bigger than its parts. This is the band. I guess it's like love. When you feel it, it's instantaneous, and you know when it's real. We started playing, and I don't know what I can say. We fell in love. It was like, when you think about that guy, that's rock and roll guitar playing. Almost like a rhythm and blues honky tonk guitar player. There's that sound, that thing we haven't heard up until now. Slow, melodic, but fast, but needs to be with a crescendo, builds. Simple and emotive, tasteful leads. His solos make sense. And we immediately went, do you have a band? Where do you live? Do you have a job? What's your name? Call me Ace.
After they heard me well, they knew right away that I was the guy.
Now, what are we going to look like?
Here we go. I think they looked a lot like the New York Dolls to begin with.
New York, early 73. It was the glitter scene. This undertow, so to speak, of art and music and fashion. It was incredible. And the New York Dolls,
There you go.
darlings of the rock scene. I remember going to see the New York Dolls at the early stages. They were ahead of us by about 6 months. And they looked great. Fabulous. Big piece hair, lipstick, platform boots. Their waists were like my wrist. They looked like stars. But when it came to them musically, Gina and I looked at each other and said, we'll kill them.
New York Dolls. There you go.
Do the androgynous thing. But we weren't convincing at it. I'm 6'2", and at the time I weighed 200 pounds. And it's not convincing when a big guy starts to prance around. The Dolls look the part. We look more like linebackers in drag.
Truth.
No matter who you aspire to be.
Lily Tomlin. That's right. And Gene back there looking like Maud.
So you got to see the best you. So hard to work.
Golden Girls reference.
The Kiss makeup came about. One of us could have been me, could have been anybody else. And, hey, let's go to Woolworths and buy some clown makeup. There was no talk of what we were going to do. So when you're a kid and one of your friends says, hey, let's jump into the deep end of the pool. Everybody just tapped into a part of who they were.
Basically, they're kind of extensions of our, alter egos and our personalities.
For Paul, there's the butterfly out of the caterpillar, if you will. I can remember being at third.
They're not going to even.
My teacher had me come up to the front of the room.
They're not going to even touch on the bandit.
I felt incredibly degraded. But really, your choice in life is to use being a victim as an excuse. Or you suit up. The whole character that I came up with, great looking, confident, brash, the front man, might as well have been a wish list of things that I wasn't, things I became. I wanted to delve a little deeper into what I loved growing up, the Phantom of the Opera. With Mary Philbin as the girl who unmasks him, I'll never forget as a kid, I frightened the hell out of me. These shadows hid the Phantom's face, and I remember starting to draw that face, the imprint of the shadow on the eyes. And that was the beginning of the demon.
It was originally called The Vampire.
Voice of Kiss, but Gene has always been the face of Kiss. He's just, man, he hit a home run. Ace's makeup was jagged, designed.
The best makeup.
Symbolizing being a spaceman. Ace has always been spacey and stuff, but he would verbalize it. I can't even stand up straight and I can't make equilibrium. Peter felt like a dad, or felt like he had 9 lives. Peter just shrugged his shoulder. Oh my goodness. And he put on the cat just like that. But it all worked beautifully together. That was the start. we were stage ready to go out there and take on the world. And then it was, okay, what are we going to call ourselves? And I knew, be it a kiss of death, a passionate kiss, it just made so much sense. You know, I took a deep breath and said, what about KISS?
All right. So that section was shorter. All right. Peter said lips first. That's right. That's right, Tom. That's right. So, okay. And I keep waiting on them to touch on the design of the logo, because Paul has claimed over and over and over and over to have designed the logo. But we both know that Ace suggested that drew out the double lightning marks for the S's, and then Paul refined it with his X-Acto and his Sharpie and his protractor, and Paul refined it. They totally skipped over the bandit character that Paul went back and forth to a couple times. The linebackers in drag, Mike, that was a great line. Linebackers in drag. Peter said lips first. Peter did say lips first. And then Paul said, what about KISS? Because they had a bunch of discussion that they've cut out about what the name of the band was going to be. Peter also felt his personality was like a cat, sweet but dangerous, right? And he also had 9 lives. He also had the 3 where he was the 3rd member of the band. And it's Tom. It's funny that you mentioned this, because my wife actually mentioned this earlier. Every time Gene and Paul tells a lie, you take a drink at the start of the show, order Domino's, and you're drunk by the time it comes. Extra points. That's great. That is great. What about Gene's band name idea? What was Gene's band name idea? I can't remember. I get some of their discussions about name ideas and Motley Crue's, because I knew Motley Crue was originally they were going to be called Christmas, and so there were some band names. I can't remember what Gene's was, but I know that that Peter did suggest lips, and then Paul said, "Well, how about KISS?" So that was a shorter segment, and it was nice to see at least audio interviews from Ace and from Peter. And I've noticed that they've showed a lot of Ace and Peter's pictures, especially Ace's, over and over and over. And it's like, come on, guys, y'all got more pictures than that. So, but yeah, so far 2 segments, and they've already told some little white lies. But you know, we're not going to do the drinking game because we would be drunk. And Domino's comes in 30 minutes. Toy Bonnie Guy says, I'm very upset that Ace and Peter didn't take part in the documentary. I think with Ace and Peter, it came down to money, honestly. I don't, or they weren't actually invited. It says that Paul says that they were invited and that they declined, but it's a grape. But I don't know. I think with KISS, it's like everything. It comes down to money. It's like Gene and Paul will make $50 million doing something, and they'll throw $1 million Ace and Peter's way. And it's a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face to me, because if they're going to be doing something about this, it's a documentary about KISS. All the band members should be in it, and original band members, and you know, who knows how much are they going to, as they go on, how much are they going to talk about Vinny? How much are they going to talk about Mark St. John or Eric or Bruce? How much are they going to talk about those different members of the bands? So my wife's beside me. She's turning the camera. She don't want to be in it. No makeup. But yeah, so interesting second segment. Angelo says he's not able to watch this right now. How is it? It's so far. It's been pretty good. It's done 2 segments so far, and we're getting ready to start the 3rd segment. Getting ready to start the 3rd segment, and it's been pretty good so far. Here we go. Starting back up.
You originally put the white face on it and had a round circle like Pete Dog. Pete the dog, the little rascals, right? Little rascals.
That's the bandit.
And it may have been Ace who said you're a rock star, you're going to be a rock star. You put 2 stars on your eyes, and how did you wind up with 1?
I think it's because my face is asymmetrical was because of my ears that I think I fell into, something asymmetric. I remember seeing Gene's hair on top of his head and thinking that's so cool. I almost was going to take all my hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and pull it up to the top of my head. But there was a physical aspect that I didn't want to reveal.
Live at the Daisy. If you guys have not heard this recording, find it on YouTube. You can hear it. It's amazing. And the Popcorn Club recording is awesome too.
We were outcasts because of the outcasts.
Ken Sharp.
Kiss were playing a hole in the wall leagues called Coventry, or they were playing in Abbeville, New York at the Daisy. These places were 45 minutes away, but they were almost lifetimes away in the sense of the New York scene.
I never wanted to be the best band in New York. I wanted to be the best band in the world.
Everything we did ourselves. We had to create ourselves, design our own logos, literally make our own clothes. We took a black t-shirt with
Paul still has that shirt. He showed it recently.
do whatever it is you gotta do. Just set yourself apart. Just figure out yourself what makes you special. We created KISS out of nowhere, out of our imagination.
Those first shows, I think there were probably 5 people. And they were all. We got in full makeup, went up there.
When we first walked up, here they are, nobody cares. And then we did 2 or 3 songs, everybody goes nuts.
We play like it was Madison Square Garden. And the audiences grew.
I remember being on that little small stage and looking across and seeing rock stars. All we needed was a demo.
Gene and I had done
Enter Eddie Kramer and Electric Lady.
studios. We would sing backups on anything where they needed extra singers and we would get paid. So we said, instead of paying us, give us studio time and you have to get Eddie Kramer.
The man.
You couldn't get higher. Hendrix, the Beatles, Zeppelin.
Eddie was lofty. This would be monumental, a game changer for us.
Eddie Kramer came to see us live, and he got it right away.
That's the show that they play Life in the Woods.
He had his 4, 5, 6-inch boots, and just the energy was just such a magical transformation of the boys into those personas. So I said, I'll do it. But we gotta do it the old-fashioned way.
4-track. That's why that demo sounds so damn good. If y'all have not heard that demo, look it up. It's so good.
Black Diamond, watching you, she, Strutter, Deuce. Those first demos,
I'm good.
I put them on today. You said it sounds good.
Yeah, it's 9:38 my time, John.
It's a purity and naivete about it. The passion was undeniable.
I wish Eddie would have produced our first album.
Authentically up.
Those demos, that was done in one day. that's what we went shopping for a deal with. Whenever we would play, we would send invitations out to all the managers, booking agents, whoever. And on one of those shows, somebody had come from Rocksteady.
I agree, John.
Uh,
I agree, Solar.
He was a television producer. He had no background.
Go a coin.
Manager, but he just seemed to get us.
Tell you what I'll do. I'll get you a deal within 2 weeks. Or we'll just call it quits.
So we signed. And right away, this guy Neil Bogart shows up, debuting a new record label called Casablanca Records. Record and billboards.
And we would be the first act on Casablanca.
Music's gonna be fabulous. Entertainment's gonna be spectacular.
Neil and Bill, their vision went so far.
And Sean Delaney.
And also Bill's boyfriend.
There you go.
Sean.
The fifth member.
Sean Delaney was actually the guy
Let's do 1, 2, 1, 2. It's working.
who first set up video cameras for us.
That's an amazing show right there.
I was stunned at what I saw. I wasn't doing anything. Going like this from 20 feet away looks like nothing. That was a wake-up call. I realized the stage is prime real estate. You've got to use up as much of it as possible. Legs apart, arms open. Everything has to be seen from 300 feet away. We were in rehearsal one day, and I think just by chance we did this. And when we finished the song, Sean said, "Wait a minute. Do that move where you rock back and forth."
And the reaction, I have to say, was like, well, we're not the Temptations.
Paul Revere on the Raiders, all of us jumping around together.
He goes, don't worry about that. You're a Kiss. You can do anything.
And sure enough, we're still doing it today.
Neil Bogart and our manager, Bill Coleman, they said, you're going to be a live band. Let's put together the biggest, loudest statement of any band ever. The only way you're going to get attention from masses is by doing things much, much bigger. There was Neil Bogart who had the idea, I want the drum riser to levitate. They went up maybe 6 feet. But nobody
And they raised it on a forklift in the beginning.
Bill's office one day, and there was somebody else in the room. Could have been a maze over magician. He said, "Who's this guy?"
Bill points out, you guys are doing a song called Fire Mountain. One of you guys has to spit fire.
Who wants to try?
Gene.
Literally, the very first show we did, I had it off like a wednesday. And the fans loved it.
Bill is also the guy who came up with the idea, you guys are never going to be seen without makeup.
He said to us, Marilyn Monroe, she never took a photo where she looked frumpy without her makeup. Whenever you saw her, she was Marilyn Monroe 24 hours a day. That's what you guys should be doing. So we did. Our first album came out early February 1974.
The first album was all those great songs that we had been playing at Coventry.
It's crazy when you think about it. There was nothing out there like us.
It had to work. We were unstoppable.
They went out on the road and just kicked ass for pretty much 2 years.
Bondage gear. Blood spurting.
Overkill kabuki makeup.
Gene's tone getting closer to Ace, and Ace was recoiling back, but not too far back. Billowing slow, shooting rockets across the stage. Kiss was about to be the most dangerous and weird band in America.
So we are approaching. It sounds like they're going to quickly move forward the first 3 albums, and quickly hit on Alive because they put the first 3 albums out in like a year and a half time. It's like the first Kiss album came out, and then within like 9 months, Hotter Than Hell came out, and then within like 6 months, uh, Dress to Kill came out, and then within like another 6 months or so, 6 to 9 months, Alive came out. So it's like 4 albums in like a year and a half, 2 year period. But yeah, so what did they touch on? They touched on uh, how important Bill Aucoin was when it came to the Things Kiss, pushing them to be bigger. Aucoin was the one who suggested they do the Spitfire, and then Sean Delaney. Sean Delaney being the person that filmed them and taught them their moves and had them develop their stage personas further. Gene originally was a vampire, and he was, over 100 years old. If you read some of the early stuff that was written about him, and even the letters that's inside Alive. So I think that so far they've been pretty accurate. On that segment, they were pretty accurate how instrumental Sean Delaney was. He, in my opinion, he was like the unofficial 5th member of Kiss. But there were so many people that helped Kiss along the way, with Bill Aucoin overstretching and his American Express card, basically charging it to its limit, and Neil Bogart putting it out there for the band, putting his label out there for the band. Logo design creator was not mentioned. That's right. Dark Light. Logo design creator was not mentioned. They basically said, we created logos, and Ace came up with the lightning bolt S's, and Paul kind of redefined it. Thomas Simmons is... When is Kiss 2020 come out? Do you have any idea? I have no clue when that's actually coming out. Cecil Lydia actually wrote Peter's note on Alive. That's true. Glenn, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I hope that you did. Glenn, did you get the chance to, whenever I talked to you when we filmed the video, if you guys haven't seen the video with me and Glenn from Tales of a Kiss Geek, you need to check that out. Check out his channel. Did you find a way to watch it live at the time? You said you were still trying to find a way. I don't know if you actually got to, that you actually got the chance to watch it. Let's see another comment. Roxanne says that Ace is touring with Alice Cooper. Yeah, that's actually going to be pretty good. I've actually had people ask me if I'm planning on going and seeing that, and I'm not. I'm really not planning on going and seeing any bands right now. I really don't want to be around that many people still at this point in time. So Sean was the one who put out Gene's hair when it caught fire in that pit, and that is true. Sean was responsible for Kiss becoming their individual characters. That's also true. He was very instrumental in he's very instrumental in that, in defining who Kiss was. And so looks like we're getting ready to start up. That was segment 3, and we're starting up segment 4, coming up on should be finishing up the 10 o'clock, the 9 o'clock hour, going into 10 o'clock after this next segment. ABC concert.
Those first 2 or 3 tours, it was us against the world. 200 shows the first year in a station wagon, doubling up on rooms,
Making $50 a week.
$75 a week.
There you go.
It was a
I thought it was $50. That's after they got their raise. Paul was going to ask Bill Aucoin for a raise, and he lifted up his feet and had a hole in the bottom of his shoe, and he decided not to do it.
Our parents drove us to the airport like we were going to summer camp. And we were going to Aurora
This is a good job.
What we had been singing about and fantasizing about, it actually existed just the way we thought it did. We were experiencing this together for the first time.
It was like all for one, one for all, like brothers.
It was a constant party. It was great.
Sure, there's some drinking and sure there's some drugs. But the shows were killer. Every single show really hit on for us. And our road manager noticed that the airline net, I think it was Origin, kept pulling our power so we couldn't do encores.
That's true.
At the end of one of our sets, all of a sudden, wow, we have power. Let's go back out again. Then we heard that our road manager had pulled one of these Bowie knives on the tour manager and locked him in one of their road cases. We went across America, wound up on the West Coast, and we literally ran out of bands to play with because they kept us off tour because we kept blowing by the stage.
We were literally stuck there. We didn't have enough money to go home. And we had shows coming up in 2 weeks.
We're staying at a motel someplace in San Francisco.
And we're eating beans and hot dogs out of a pot. How cool are we? The first album, I think it sold about 60,000 copies. That wasn't a big success. So we put out another album.
Hotter than hell. That's a good show. The Winterland show. That's an amazing show. It's online too. Listen how damn good they are.
Right around that time, we had a moment of sobriety with our record company president. You guys are costing me a fortune. You don't have hit singles, and that's okay. I'll stick with you, but you keep getting thrown off tours. I don't know how to tell you this, but you need to stay on a tour. Could you be less good? And we literally said something like, "No way." Can't put a tiger out there in front of lions and everything. Do you mind just walking by that line and don't get his throat out? Tiger. That's what I do.
I discovered him when I was 15, just turned 16. And I was one of the very first Kiss fans that I was ever aware of because I saw them in a magazine called Rock Scene. That was their first time in the magazine.
This had to have been back in 1974. I got to the very back of Circus magazine. And I saw this crazy hair and makeup. I think, what the hell is this?
Then after I saw them in concert, seeing them seals the deal.
Man, they bring in Eric and Tommy in early.
It's a partial view of Kiss. I thought they were going to be revealing some deep corner of their poetic souls. It really meant that my seat was behind a pole at the side of the stage. Despite that, it was still the most invigorating, energizing, exciting 2 hours of rock and roll music that I've seen to this day. Early on, the audience was there to see the headliner, but soon enough, people were showing up at the concerts wearing our makeup. Kiss first broke in the Midwest, and as a Illinois lad myself, that is not surprising to me. The coast may have been more drawn to T-Rex and Bowie, but Kiss really spoke to suburban kids like myself. Like, you're trapped in some conservative suburb where the best you can hope for ever is to maybe get a job at Dairy Queen, and along comes Kiss.
Tom Morello's so cool.
Working class bombast. It felt like it was built in the industrial Midwest.
That Winterland show is so good.
More than just music. Kiss seemed like theater. Kiss seemed like fantasy.
We had the most expensive show out there. The scale kept getting bigger. We were selling out concerts, but the problem was, in those days, record labels didn't get any money from live concerts. All they got were the records. And so the label's losing money hand over fist.
I seem to remember Bill Corey saying to me, these guys are in a little bit of trouble.
Neil Bogart mortgaged his house. And he had kids and a marriage and all that.
The record company's really in dire straits. So the key factor here was Bill Corey. Bill Corey used his American Express
Yep.
to continue to finance touring.
Maxed it out.
He was going into great amounts of debt, and he was being chased by the creditors, and he was running away as quick as he could.
We didn't have hit singles, no album sales, nothing.
And so financially, we were in a lot of trouble. We were all in a lot of trouble.
We thought the problem was that we were not playing on radio at all.
We'll see, John. I don't like that either. All right, so coming up to the 10 o'clock hour, and Emily and their mom mentioned they're about a couple minutes ahead of us. Roxanne said she don't like when guys sing Peter's songs, Ace's songs. Solid Garlic agrees. Will they talk about a live cover controversy, whether there was a picture of a KISS crowd or another band's crowd? Yeah, I've always heard that it was another band, that the photographer had those kids come up there and take a picture. There's been all kinds of controversy about that. Mike Westphal says, I'd rather seen other musicians they influence rather than Tommy and Eric. Yeah, I figured that was their way of going ahead and kind of getting Tommy and Eric into getting them into the show, because they're going to be all over it in just a little bit. Probably, maybe not tonight, but maybe tomorrow. It's kind of interesting to see where they're going to split the eras. Right now, they're just now made it up to Alive, or they're not quite at Alive yet. They've talked about them putting out the debut and Hotter Than Hell, and they're going to get pulled off. So they should be coming back to. They're talking about them not having any money, the record company losing money. Bill Aucoin starting to max out his credit card. Neil Bogart financing his house. So we know that because they didn't have enough money to hire a producer, that Neil Bogart produced Dress to Kill, which basically he just pushed the button and said, that's a good take. And then Gene and Paul be like, no, let's do it again. And then they bring Eddie back to record some shows to make Alive. And I hope they don't gloss over Alive. I hope they talk about it as the juggernaut it is, and maybe a little bit behind the scenes of what went into making Alive. And then from there, man, I think they might, I don't know if they're going to get all the way up to Peter and leaving the band, or how far are they going to get to? Are they going to go through Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, Alive 2, the solo albums, Dynasty? How far are they going to get tonight? Let's see what people are saying here. Radio hated KISS because of non-makeup. Did Peter ever play drums on his solo album, or was it someone else? Peter played drums on his solo album, some of them. Kind of interested in how four guys wearing makeup really connected with the working class. I think it was just because they were just so much rock. Peter's footage before KISS is the only thing new I've noticed so far. There's some pictures I've seen of Paul. I need to hear more Peter and Ace interview audio. Me too. That'd be nice to hear. At this pace, we will get through Alive or the solo albums, if that. Alive 2 or the solo albums, if that. Yeah. They're going to pick it up sooner or later. They're going to pick it up. That's what I'm looking to see, is when are they going to start skipping stuff? When are they really going to fast forward through some stuff? KISS would have been no more had Alive not hit. That is true, Cecil. Let's see. I think they'll get up to 80. John B. Good says. So it's going to be interesting. Ronnie agrees. Yep, 1980. So, yeah, I'm thinking that is going to be a good jump-off point if they don't fast forward and they're getting to the point where, especially after Destroyer, where they could really start talking some serious crap about Ace and Peter and their drug addiction and stuff. And so here we're back. This is where the induction of the KISS Army, I believe.
Make your ears bleed, and it actually started organically in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yep,
The radio station there wasn't playing
KISS Army.
was in early 1975. The local radio station, which was just a brick enclosure outside of town with an antenna on top in the middle of a cow pasture. WBTS is now broadcasting.
People got together.
There was a guy named Starkey.
He got in touch with the
KISS
radio
Army.
He said, listen, you got to play KISS. It's my favorite band.
If you don't play KISS, the KISS Army will surround the station.
BTS without a need stupidly out there.
The radio station thought that was very funny. But lo and behold, when they didn't play KISS, the radio station was surrounded.
And that's when the KISS Army was born.
I've never seen something like this. When people play rock and roll camp, I've never seen some mass participation.
It's a volunteer army. What could be better than having people volunteer to wave the flag?
The fans and the band fell in love with each other. They tattooed their bodies on our faces. They named their children after our songs. There's some kind of authentic soul connection.
But we still needed to write a hit.
Yep, rock and roll all night.
Third record, Casablanca, was in deep trouble. We made 2 albums right away the first year, neither sold. The third album, Neil Bogart decided to jump on and produce it for us.
We were back in New York City and trying to cut costs where we could. If you look at Dress to Kill, the album cover, most of us didn't own suits, but Bill LaPointe, our manager, had closets full of suits. So we got suits from Bill, and I'm wearing my dad's shoes. Because all my shoes at that point had 8-inch heels, and that's all I had.
And then we got a Neil Bogart's office at Casablanca Records. He said, you guys know who you are and all that stuff, but you haven't told us. Politicians have a political platform. Hamburgers can have it your way. We don't know what you stand for. You guys should run an anthem.
Once again.
Before, and I didn't know what it meant.
And said, what do you mean by an anthem? And he said, well, Sly and the Family Stone have I Want to Take You Higher, or Dance to the Music, songs their audience identify with.
Where the words tell people what you believe in and who you are.
And it was really perceptive. The idea of having a rallying cry, a rallying song.
Everyone, oh, that's kind of cool.
Thus, rock and roll all night.
I had a song called Drive Me Wild about a girl as a car. But it didn't have a chorus. And then Paul said, why not like a funny song?
I wanted to be a preacher of rock and roll and sing about the glory of this incredible music. It celebrated life. But how do you put this into a nutshell? How concise can this be? And I pictured the guitar and I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. I want to rock and roll. So that it was emphatic and I went right back to it.
And when you stuck those 2 bits together,
It was magic.
It's just one of those songs. It's like Happy Birthday. Basically says it all in the title. And it's one way of looking at the world. Is I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. There's some other problems in the world that maybe we need to deal with, but that's for other bands.
I just want to rock and roll all night party.
In there. It's fine.
Dave Grohl's so cool. I like that they're getting so much from Dave Grohl and Tom Morello.
to resort to going to certain people with vowels at the end of their last names. Let's not go farther than that. To borrow money.
He was calling in favors. We'll make good on this payment, but if you could give me a few more months. At that point, I think it was a pretty precarious situation.
Casablanca, they were really down to the last dollar. We hadn't broken through with records.
Hope they do too.
3 studio albums that just didn't sell. They didn't go gold. And so the record company just went, well, we don't want to do another studio record. It's going to be too expensive.
Alive was what made them, guys. It really was.
The first 3 studio albums really never captured the essence of what the band was live. So we went back to Eddie Kramer.
Yep.
He was the right person to do
Look there. There's the poster.
I'm sitting in my office, I get a phone call. Hey, Eddie, it's Neil Bogart. Do you want to do a Kiss album live?
There's the photo.
The sound and smoke bombs, blood coming from Gene. I mean, it's a totally approaching a Kiss. Trying to capture that madness on tape. This is a big challenge.
Alive was the big input. If it didn't hit with the seismic force that Kiss needed and Bill Point and Casablanca needed, I think the whole thing would have went belly
It
up.
would have. Kiss would be no more. Yep. So that whole thing, they're just now up to Alive, man. So we're 7 minutes into the second hour of tonight, and I think they're really going to have to. I'm going to tell you right now, it's just 4 hours altogether, less than that with commercials. You're averaging about 20 minutes commercials for the 2 hours. Maybe 30 minutes of commercials for the 2 hours. There's going to be certain areas of their time, their career. They're going to just they're going to fly right over it. I do think that they're really going to hit on Alive. I think they're going to kind of gloss, even though they're the most iconic albums in my opinion, when it comes to the next 3 albums and Alive 2. I don't know how much they're going to really go into that. And honestly, I think that the non-makeup era with Vinny and with Mark and possibly maybe with Eric and Bruce, I really feel like that they're not going to get a whole lot of coverage, and that's going to be sad because the makeup era doesn't seem to get a lot of coverage when it comes to. It doesn't get a lot of love when it comes to Kiss, and to the Kiss fans love it. There's certain Kiss fans that love it, but they're going to, at some point in time, they're going to have to fast forward this thing, and an hour in, and they're just now to Alive 2, or just now to Alive 1. If you look at it, I know they don't have to worry about, talking about the beginning of Kiss and all that now. They could make it to the end of the solo albums and possibly up to Dynasty if they speed it up a little bit. But we'll just see. We'll see what happens. Mike Westfall says it's hard to fit 50 years into 4 albums into 4 hours, and it really is. Solar Garlic, it's strange how some bands are just better live bands in studio. I agree. Kiss is one of those bands, and I don't care if they doctor up their live stuff. It's just something about capturing that band live or on a sound stage or in sound check that just doesn't come through the same when they're in the studio. Let's see. Wonder if we'll see some new Bob Ezrin commentary. I don't know. That'd be cool to see. Toy Bonnie, what part are you in? I want to know if we're in sync. Emily and Sandy Graziano said that they were a little bit ahead of me, but where I'm at, it's 10 after 10. And where I'm at, they're getting ready. They just finished the segment where they were talking about getting Eddie Kramer to record alive. And so at my time right now, it's 10 after 10, and they're talking about alive. They're getting ready to come back from commercial break, and I'm sure they're going to be talking about Alive and then how Alive blew up, and hopefully they'll talk about Cadillac, Michigan. Somebody mentioned that. Hopefully they do mention that because that's huge. That's huge. That's a huge part of their history is Cadillac, Michigan. They should at least touch on that. They touched on the KISS Army, and so they should touch on, in my opinion, they should touch on Cadillac, Michigan. All right, sounds like we're getting ready to go back after the thing for serial killers goes off, which I'll have to watch that. I love serial killers.
Well, you don't
I love
love
serial killers. I love
the
the stories of serial killers. All right, here we go. Back, Detroit, Michigan. And you got it. Anybody know who did that intro? You get a start. You get a feather in your cap if you know who did that intro. I cut off when Paul said we need to write a hit. Did they talk about rock and roll all night yet? Yes, they did. There you go, Junior Smalling. John B. Good. You get a feather in your cap. He was their road manager, wasn't he?
Initially, when we bring the tapes back to the lady, Gina said, "Man, we're gonna make something bigger."
We wanted to put you in the center of the audience.
We got to manipulate it. Yep.
Low screams, clapping, all these different things.
I'm glad they touched on that. They used cannons.
Let me just say this. There is some contention in the ranks as to how much of the hell it is done.
Were there mistakes? Sure. Do you want to hear a mistake every time you listen to a song? No. So wherever playing needed to be redone, we replayed.
I can assure you, my memory banks in for shit of stuff we had to do. But it sounds great.
Yep.
That album's considered one of the greatest live
They redid a lot,
It's exactly what happened.
but it's one of the greatest live albums from the 70s, in my opinion.
Was and is.
So we finished the album, we liked it. And Neil Bogart calls me and says, "Hey, Gene, I'm talking to your manager. He's not sending me the master tapes. I need that to put the record out." And I said, "You owe us radio royalties." We sent the tapes. And I'll never forget this. Neil Bogart, who I thought was my friend and was always a big supporter and everything, but I think was scared to death because he allegedly and purportedly borrowed money from the wrong kinds of people. Well, Neil Bogart says, "Listen, asshole, you don't know who you're dealing with. You're going to send me those tapes, or I'm going to break your legs."
Oh, shit. Did anybody know that?
He still didn't send the album until he sent us the money.
Kiss Alive came out. And it goes like a bloody rocket.
Rock and Roll All Night live version from Top 10. It was a hit.
The studio version sounded okay.
It was too short. Didn't have a solo.
The audience is chanting with them. You can't replace that. That thing saved the company's ass. Less than 2 years ago, Kiss came to Detroit, and now they sold 1 million records.
Kiss Alive sells 1 million records right away. We were the second platinum album in history. The first one was the Eagles, and within an hour, Kiss Alive.
That was the beginning. What is most important to you? Spectacle or the music? Or money? New money. And how do you go find your way to what you say?
It's all the connection between the fans and the band comes from a sense of reciprocity. We give back what we are given, and that snowballs.
And we said it before, and we're going to say it again. If people are number one.
We were having a great time. We were really digging being famous.
Peter.
And it did happen quick for Kiss. We got together, I believe, 71, 72, and 76. We were styling. I think each one of us was really digging the limos, the dressing up with the best of clothes we could buy now, wake up with this shit. Really thought you were doing this kisses with them.
A lot of people come up that want to taste the tongue.
Come down with all the other rock stars. It was very cool. It was a very cool time. But I wanted that high all the time. When we leave the stage, I had to bring it back to my room. So I partied and I just kept taking it with me and that stage. Then you gotta go away and leave it.
The things that I sang about, everything I envisioned became real. The kid who had to chase girls wound up being chased. And the kid who was not popular became very popular.
What an album.
When Kiss Alive came out and became a big hit, Bill, in his wisdom, said, you might have this huge success now, but you need a great studio album, not like the last.
And here we go.
And a short order, he said, there's a guy named Bob Ezra. He should be producing you.
Here comes Bob Ezrin.
It was a big deal.
I was pretty successful. I had a couple of really big records, and I was pretty full of myself. I thought I had the answers to everything, and that made me perfectly suited to working with Kiss.
Bob really took us to another level. I learned a lot from Bob. He opened my eyes to sonically what was possible with other instruments, like the piano, replicating what a guitar was playing to give it more depth.
We were venturing into new areas for Kiss.
To me, their characters, they were like big screen characters, and I wanted to treat them like that in the music that we made. So the stories we told were more dramatic, and they were about people other than just themselves. Detroit Rock City, that was like a mini symphony, like a piece of rock theater.
That's my jam, y'all. Y'all know that.
Creative ideas. He was a big influence musically, lyrically.
You say, I don't like that part, but I like that.
Okay, that's the verse. Who's got the chorus?
Here's what
Is that what we played? That would be.
Yeah, play Detroit Road City at my funeral.
No,
Oh,
I'm not playing your funeral. Jeez. That escalated quickly. It's your theme song when you walk down the road.
yeah, that's my theme song. Plays in my head.
It just didn't sit right with him.
All right, so I think this is advertising tomorrow. I can tell you guys right now that I'm enjoying tonight more than I'm going to enjoy tomorrow night. And I'm enjoying up to this point. And I think at this point in time is when the Peter and Ace trash talking begins. Show of hands. Who thinks that now is when the Peter and Ace trash talking is about to begin? They've been very tactful and they've been very courteous towards Ace and Peter. and it was an all for one for all thing that they said. But now they're going to start addressing Ace and Peter as being the problem with the band. That they're excessive in this and they're excess in that. Is going to, because they've just got through with Detroit Rock City, and even though it's well documented that Bob Ezrin was the one that introduced Ace and Peter to Coke, and that they had a Coke mirror on the mixing board in the studio. And Gene actually scooped some off in his coffee one time, thinking it was creamer, and spit it out. So yeah, this is when I think the Ace and Peter bashing and bad mouthing is going to come. Because even though the solo albums was in their contract, Ace and Peter definitely wanted to do something a little different. They were getting burnt out on the machine, because this is where, with the live Kiss really blew up. And this is where Kiss is really going to get on that touring treadmill where it's night after night after night after night after night. Because they did that with, they're going to be doing that with Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, Alive 2, and I think the next, man, I think we very well could get through to Dynasty and to Peter leaving Kiss and officially Kiss, the original All for One, being gone. And the original All for One being gone. And that is what I think is going to take us into night number 2. I think we very well could make it. It's 20 after 10 my time. So we maybe have 3 more sections to go. And so if they hit this section where they do Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun, and maybe start to touch on Alive 2, it's like, hey, let's do another live album. And then they come out of, and then on the next one, on the next section, they do maybe finish up Alive 2 and do the solo albums, and they finish up the solo albums and then do Dynasty. They very well could get all of this in here. Yeah, it ain't sweet and low, Gene. There you go. Let's see. Trying to catch up. Wow, Bob actually looks pretty good for a 100-year-old guy, right? John B. Good. Ace was best musician in the band. I love the piano, that solo in Detroit Rock City. Keith, thank you. I appreciate that. Solid Garlic, I agree. They'll be sneaky trashy. There's a hands up. John B. Good. Now's when the drugs and alcohol start shaming. Yep. Ain't sweet and low, Gene. Gene thought it was sweet and low. Yep. I'm going to mute the part when they bash Ace and Peter. Good for you, Roxanne. Gene Coke reminds me of a story in Black Sabbath was foreign tech. Okay, here we go. We're back. Back with the story.
There was a lot of structure, more structure than they were used to. And yes, I wore a whistle. And yes, I used to blow it to get their attention because we didn't have time to mess around. We had to move.
Here we go.
People ask if I was aware of the tensions within the band. That's like saying, well, when you were walking through the train wreckage, did you notice that there was an accident? Bob kind of ran the show like a dictator.
Ace.
That's when we started to see the first big problems go down with Ace.
Ace was struggling. He partied a lot, late coming in. Sometimes he just didn't show up on the session where we were supposed to be doing the guitar.
You got to come down and play a solo. You're not here for the tracks. You got to come down.
I can't come down. Why not? I got a club game. So we got another guitar player.
I think he started feeling alienated and ganged up on. And the truth is, he was.
I've never been hired from in my life. Just never appealed to me. So I never emotionally understood it.
Yep. Here you go, Sandy. Here we go.
He was supposed to be a rock star. And he was being a rock star. And look, in New York in 1976, cocaine was everywhere. Your dentist had it, your lawyer had it. Every rock star, for sure, had access to it, whether they took it or not. So, yes, I had cocaine. And yes, I recall doing it together with some of the members of the band.
At least he owned up to that.
Trying to keep up with Ezra, which is a possibility. But I think personally that album, Ezra did everything perfect for it.
I have to say that any drug use to me is excessive.
Oh, come on, Paul.
He managed to do what needed to get done and do it brilliantly. He was at the top of his game. Destroyer was far beyond anything we could have come up with on our own. A perfect proof of that is death.
I think it was Bill O'Coy who told me it was important that there be one Peter Criss song on every album. It was just the political reality of the band.
And one day, Peter was riding in the car with me, and he starts humming Beck, B-E-C-K. He goes, oh, it's a song called Beck.
I sung it to Gene, and he liked it. And then when Ezra got it, he said, well, we can't sing about Jeff Beck. We got to do something about how about Beth. And I asked if it would be okay if I took it home and worked on it for a little bit. And I know it was very different than anything they had done before. But I was
You notice you don't hear Beth
that song
because Peter didn't let them use it.
everybody.
Disc jockey started playing Beth.
That became massive. Destroyer propelled us to new heights of popularity. I mean, Beth won People's Choice.
Goldie Hawn. Boy, I bet that just chaps Paul's ass. Paul's songs never won a People's Choice Award.
'76 when Destroyer and Beth became big hits.
There's been some footage here I've not seen. You guys are right.
All of a sudden, we were one of the biggest bands in the world.
Kiss is said to be sharing the popularity the Beatles enjoy.
When I first realized how big we were going to be,
A new breed of rock and roll.
and that it was now out of all of our hands,
Kiss.
it was frightening. I liken it to being pulled up on a roller coaster. The chain is underneath and it's pulling you up, and you know that when you get to the top,
The view from up there, breathtaking.
that's when the light begins. That's what it felt like.
What the fuck?
Like all of the movies.
Wow. Okay. So, what we think, guys? That was a lot of bashing going on there. I mean, truth or not, Paul and Gene act like they're innocent. Paul acts like he's never done anything. Paul partied. We all know Paul partied. Gene, I get so tired of I've never done drugs. I've never drank. That's okay. That's okay. Because if you've never done drugs, you've never drank, you've never been high, you've never been drunk, that's great. But you can't hold other people to the barometer that you hold yourself to, because we're individuals. And I don't know, man. It's just like, yeah, Gene had his women that he bragged about. My wife's over here making all these comments, and she's right. Gene's addiction was women. Gene's addiction was women. And Gene's addiction, when later on, are they going to badmouth Gene for basically trying to become Mr. Hollywood or Mr. Producer because he's wanting to be in every movie and produce every movie and left Paul out to dry? Are they just going to kind of gloss over that? I mean, you know, Paul's not going to sit and badmouth his blood brother of all these years. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Uh, I can do without it. Yeah, John, that's Peter without the makeup doing looked like he was getting ready to sing Beth, and you notice that they didn't have Beth. Peter lives 20 minutes from me in Jersey. I keep hoping to run into him one of these days. That's cool, Solar. Um, Everyone has their vices. That's true, John. Everybody has their own vices. And Paul and Jean, they're so hypocritical when it comes to Ace and Peter. They're so hypocritical, and they act like they have never done wrong, but they both have their own vices. Paul has a hunger for fame and for power, and he has said before that Kiss is his band, and Paul also has even said in his book that he became famous to rub it in the noses of the people who made fun of him and called him Stanley the Monster whenever he was a kid because of his ear. So he also wanted to become famous for very spiteful reasons. And you can tell sometimes he keeps that chip on his shoulder. And you have to imagine he cannot stand Ace and Peter, but yet Peter Peter had the biggest song for Kiss, and Ace is one of the favorite members of Kiss and has an awesome solo career to this day, and still makes albums and still goes out and tours and is everybody's favorite member of Kiss. And I don't know, it's just Paul. I just feel sorry for him because yeah, a lot of holier than thou attitudes to Ace and Peter. It's right. I wish they would admit that all four of them have made mistakes. And, honestly, if I was Ace or Peter, I couldn't stay in a band with Gene and Paul. I couldn't. I couldn't do it. I don't know. So I think we're getting ready to come back. It's 10:33, and we're probably getting ready to come back there'll probably be two more segments. This segment, maybe one more, maybe two more. So we're getting ready to come back. Maybe Cadillac should be coming up soon. Oh, no, we got Court Cam. Cadillac, I don't know if you guys are getting the same commercials as I am, but some of these commercials are great. They're showing one Court Cam now. So here we go. Hopefully they cover Cadillac.
February 1974. Within a year and a half, we were headlining Anaheim Stadium. 43,000 seater, sold out. Kiss inspires incredible passion. What fun, a Kiss. So that's the thing here. The Beatles in the 60s and Kiss in the 70s. Extraordinary success of Kiss. It has something to do with their music, but it has more to do with the way they are hyped and packaged. That's the genius thing.
Here we come into the merchandising.
Seemed to sort of invent these personalities for each of them. And off stage, they were as mysterious as they were on stage.
Any Kiss fan can tell you don't ever really see these faces. It's all part of the mystique.
Hey, Eugene, getting a picture of Kiss without the makeup is like getting a picture of Bigfoot.
Eugene Simmons, are you? No, we guarded our secret. And there was a $25,000 reward on our heads. People magazine got this shot of Paul, and actually got the film away from Paul's bodyguard. What is the biggest picture they could handle? Yeah, surely that work is a part of mystique. Yeah, mystique. Their fantasies and the characters they were portraying, they always must be in character.
This idea
I tell you, fans that weren't around during the time when they had the makeup on and you didn't know what they looked like. It was such an amazing time.
I really don't look that different. You know, I'm not quite this pale.
So famous, so big, so fast. Just complete insanity. I remember we sold out Madison Square Garden for 3 nights. Then we sold out 5 nights at the Rudolph Tokyo. It was one day less. We broke the Beatles record.
Yes, the Beatles. I love the Beatles. My favorite band. But we took place sad. I haven't seen that since the Beatles. Ironically, no matter how successful we became, part of the appeal of the band was in being a member of the Black Sheep Society, no matter how big it was, because there was still a lot of people and critics who didn't like us.
Well, through the 1960s, his boyish looks and innovative music made young Mark Allen and older
I'm waiting on them to go into the whole Knights in Satan service and stuff now, because this is when it got really big.
Kiss's music, the theatrics, they're all merchandise. Kiss always had an adversarial relationship with rock critics.
Some critics say they don't make music, they just make noise.
But Kiss was never a critics band. It always was a people's band. They self-identified as a band that would go over and above for the fans. Critics had blasted the group for engaging in nuclear-level prepubescent hype.
Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon. Printed in real Kiss blood. Isn't that wonderful?
Real fast act, guys.
Yeah, sounds like somebody didn't get laid enough as a kid.
Marketing geniuses.
There's Cadillac.
Off the streets of New York who didn't have a clue.
Philip Morris was far ahead. It was his vision to merchandise the band.
Your Kiss radio.
I remember the Kiss radio. Yeah, that's it. That's Kiss radio right there. So when I was a kid, I was like, oh my God, I want a Kiss radio so bad. I need a Kiss radio. It's your Kiss radio.
I thought it played Kiss radio.
COD without telling my mom. They charge you on delivery. The guy comes to the door. I'm like, Kiss radio. He's like, here's a COD. I was like, I didn't order a Kiss radio. So I never got it. That would be nuts. But come on, when it comes to like branding and merchandising, nobody can out-merch Kiss. This is Kiss.
The Miko dolls. I had the Kiss Your Face makeup kit. Had that too.
Now you just use my stuff.
Now I just use my wife's makeup.
Our mantra and our way of thinking is that you're not forcing anybody to have something. You're denying them if you don't give it to them.
Kiss is number one.
It only got bigger and bigger and bigger.
I know Kiss about 60 or 70. Look right on. It has Kiss on the back.
Oh wow.
What does Kiss generate a year? $117 million.
Wow.
117 million.
Wow. That's in 70s money, y'all. Oh, Gene's house.
That one crazy room in his house that's like every Kiss product in history. It's crazy. It's like a museum times 10.
We make everything from Kiss condoms to Kiss caskets all together now. We'll get you coming. We'll get you going.
Gene.
Thousands of licensed products. But again, with anything to do with Kiss, you're talking about different personalities within the band.
First one was half and I thought, well, that's kind of a cool thing, like a bunch of flaps. I'll carry the legs around myself. It was cute. And then more and more cute things I call them started to happen. And I realized that the band, this kick-ass band that came to the streets of New York, we lost our edge. We were becoming dolls. We always had a message, Kiss. It was totally rock and roll, my entire day. And that was going out the window when I saw it, and it was a rock band.
Yep.
This is therapy. Once money and fame and nonsense products came in, we started to move away from the magic that was all four of us.
That certainly was the track. Why me?
Now mix in drugs.
Oh God, Gene, come on. Okay, y'all. Brant's rant here. I'm about to get really pissed off in the next segment. I can go ahead and tell you that right now. Some of you fans, some of you old school fans, maybe some of you new fans that really care about the original four band, you know, it's not such a bad thing that Peter and Ace didn't like. I mean, Peter did. He said he thought it was a joke. He thought it was a joke. He thought that they were a rock band. Yeah, the break from bashing is over, Mike. That's true. And you're right, Cecil. Paul has issues. Paul Stanley does have issues. He has mental issues. He surely does. And Gene just thinks Gene's all about the money. Gene is all about the money. And Gene thinks that he's right all the time and he can't be wrong. Just look at his Twitter. Gene cannot be wrong. Yeah, Paul has issues. Yeah, I'm going to put this up here for Cecil. Paul has issues. It doesn't matter how much wealth and success he is still the same insecure person inside. And that is truth. Yep, that is definitely truth. Did they show any Destroyer studio footage? They did. They didn't show any footage. They basically showed pictures. And I don't know if you've already noticed, but it seems like once they hit Destroyer, they have not mentioned Rock and Roll Over. They have not mentioned Love Gun. They've not mentioned Live 2. But yet I've already seen in that footage, I've already seen footage from Love Gun, Live 2. I've seen solo album footage. I actually seen some Dynasty footage. So right now they're talking about where I think they're going to be coming back. It's probably going to be the last segment because it's 10:42 at my time right now. It's going to lead up to Peter. You notice they talked about Peter. So they're going to be leading up to Peter leaving the band. Man, I mean, like I said, this is just real. It's real disappointing because how they're going to drive this wedge, and they always make Peter and Ace out to be wrong, mentioning the drugs and mentioning the egos and not wanting to, Peter not being happy about this direction. And they always make Ace and Peter out to be wrong, not just have a difference of opinion. It's not enough for them to just have a difference of opinion. They have to be, in Gene and Paul's eyes, they have to be wrong. They have to be the problem. Even though Gene and Paul never admits that they were part of a problem, it's always got to be Ace and Peter being the problem. Let's see. Glenn says, my stream keeps cutting out and buffer on PD and talk about cocaine in 1976. Okay, you might be a little bit behind, Glenn. Whether Ace or Peter do this, whether they talk about what they did, agree in this documentary, the narrative would be about drugs and alcohol. Paul and Gene just take advantage of what they want to make money of Ace and Peter after bashing them. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Paul couldn't even stand Richard Marx saying he thought Steven Tyler hadn't lost his voice. The bashing is right around the corner. Yeah, the bashing has already begun, Jay. But yeah, it's definitely, and it's going to be all Peter's fault. It's all Peter's fault. And Peter did do some things there in the very end. You know, messing with shows and speeding up and slowing down. But like I said, man, you know, you see some of the Dynasty footage where he was speeding up his drumming and slowing down his drumming. Yeah, I hope, Solar, that they're not glossing over Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun and Alive 2, because that is my era. Only if there was high resolution video back then. Okay, we're almost back. Bet they don't mention how Ace. Well, Ace. So I'm okay. We're back. So that's live too. That's a lot. That's Love Gun Alive 2 stage.
1977 was the peak of our popularity, but there was trouble in paradise.
Oh, Gene. Rock and roll over.
When anybody says fame is a very powerful drug. It can kill your creativity. It can kill your desire to progress. I don't think anybody goes through it unscathed.
All of a sudden, I wake up one day, there's these people bloggers who up wherever and tell me I'm the greatest Peter Chris drummer. And as a singer, I'm one just beautiful song. This girl's thinking, singing that, and crying, and I didn't know how to handle it.
When we became unsuccessful, everybody was going their own way. We lost some of that collective thought that we had at the beginning of that magic. It started to fade.
Sometimes people talk about, oh, fame changed so and so. Fame doesn't change you. It allows you to be the asshole you want.
Well, was spoken very truly, Paul.
We both grew up with the attitude that rock and roll was.
He just said fame allows you to be the asshole that you are.
The alcohol and the drug use and the dysfunctional stuff started to hit the band heavy.
Let's just say the Keith Richards of rock and roll in America. As far as
You are rock and roll ace.
We couldn't rely on it
for anything. When you're in the studio and you have to get a part done before the person who's playing it passes out, that's really a shame. Yes, it was sad. It was also a drag. If we stood in front of the drums during a concert, he threw sticks at us. In his mind, the entire area in front of the drums was a no-fly zone. Insane.
Peter was undependable, was erratic, dark cloud, didn't show up at meetings, all that stuff.
Ace and I, we looked at it as it was a party. Rock and roll is to let it all go and hang out, have a great time.
Hey, Carla, it's good to see you.
Dude sitting in the office with a shirt and tie and figured out what beat goes where. It's great about rock and roll. Just the traveling and all the other bullshit that I was performing.
There were two sides to Ace and Peter. I'll always love Ace and Peter in the early days. They had the drive. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to make it. And on stage, rock stars. They gave it their all. But as success and money and fame started to come in, they succumbed to it. I have to say, in all honesty, I did too. I succumbed to fame, but not with chemicals and alcohol, but with ego. Grand delusions of myself.
Yes, you did. Grand delusions, Gene.
My ambitions grew bigger and my appetite grew more. If a day went by and I didn't have companionship, it was a disaster.
Hey, if you saw another celebrity in the audience tonight, you probably did. Sharon was here.
I started seeing Cher at the time, and then her best friend, Diana, which that didn't last long. It's easier to look at somebody who's suffering from alcohol and drugs and kind of say, you got a problem, buddy. Mine was more hidden, being full of myself. That's what it was.
At least he's acknowledging it.
Bunch of guys hiding behind masks. In my case, it was you're Superman and you're on stage and you're the envy of people who were there, but nobody knew. I had this deformity, born basically without a right ear. Even the band had no idea. Gene didn't know about my through my hair, past my shoulders. I listened to people tilting my head. It was this big secret that was at the core of my being. I was still very much the same guy that I had been before the band succeeded. The only difference was now I was famous and I had this persona. So the stage was not only my escape, but it's where I wanted to live.
Yeah, and he was.
It was home. I hated it.
Yep.
I would be just counting the days until we would hit the road again.
He'd go sit at home alone.
And that didn't make it any easier for the guys in the band. The band was pushing the limit.
When you're in love, you overlook all the potential problems and the foibles. All of the signs were there.
We worked around it. But we were about to go over the cliff.
Okay, guys. Thoughts. Let's hear it. Let's hear viewers' rants. I see Carla is in the chat. So good to see you, Carla. I've missed you since we've not been doing things together. But I hope that work isn't being too bad on you. My work has been crazy, and I worked 20 hours over last week alone, and I'm gonna have to take some time off coming up because my time is just getting a little too high, so I'm gonna have to take some time off. But let's hear what you guys think, man. Somebody said they surprised hearing Gene and Paul admit to their issues. That kind of shocked me too, but you still kind of got the feeling that, well, they're still better. I don't know. I kind of hate how they have. I kind of hate how they've really glossed over. They've really glossed over. Once they got past Destroyer, they've glossed over Rock and Roll Over. They glossed over Love Gun. Alive 2. They're now in 77, he said. And of course, the solo albums came out in 78. I wonder if they're just going to gloss over Phantom of the Park, if they're going to gloss over the solo albums, and they're going to go straight to Dynasty and Peter getting fired from the band and having to be replaced on Dynasty album with Anton Fig. I'm kind of wondering if that's going to happen. See, I'm just going down through here. Yeah, did they try to help Peter? Nope. This doc isn't the one size it could have been. Look at Peter and Ace from 96 to 02. They couldn't stay in the band. I don't blame Peter and Ace for not being in the band. Like I said before, I don't think I could have stayed in the band with Gene and Paul. Those egos, the mental issues and the egos. Carlos, hopes everybody has a great summer. Carla, it's good to hear from you. Good to see you. Yeah, there it is. Mike saying I'm surprised they admitted to their own problems. See, that was I think that was Peter recording his vocals, maybe. Anyone ever seen the deformed ear he keeps talking about? No, and he's recently had it reconstructed. But I've seen pictures of Paul. It's his right ear, and I've seen pictures of Paul in live shots with his head back and his hair back, and it's almost like he's got a patch over it that looks like hair. It's like it came down and covered it and was like part of his sideburn. I knew that he covered it. He mentioned in his book that he covered it. Paul's only truly admitted he was wrong once when he basically forced Eric out of the band when he was dying of cancer. Yeah, Paul don't admit. Paul doesn't admit very often that he's wrong. Let's see. John Be Good. They'll gloss over the solo albums because Ace had a better selling album than Paul. Mr. Rugby Loosehead, this is horrible, worse than I thought was going to be. It's total recon of the band's history and things that went on behind it. Totally goes out against the first history. Yeah, they have rewritten it quite just a little bit. Gene and Paul always come across as if they're so much better. 4 a.m. in the morning. Glenn, go to bed. Go to bed, man. Good night. Talk to you later. See you guys tomorrow for part 2 also, Glenn. Let's see. Paul needs to talk to someone about the hate he has. All right, here we go. We're back on. See what they're going to finish up with. It goes till 4 after. There's a Phantom. Sarcasm much, Paul? Your fans still love it, buddy.
By that time, the band literally wasn't talking to each other. None of us had read the script. It was a disaster waiting to happen.
Paul and his amazing acting.
Sometimes we would be on the set shooting, and Ace or Peter would disappear.
Oh, God.
They'd literally leave the set, and we have stand-ins. And in some of the scenes, you can see that it's not them.
At the end of filming, there was a meeting held backstage, and Ace made the announcement that he has to leave the band. I'm on a solo career. I want to write my own songs. I'm leaving the band. On the way out, he turned to me and he said, I'm going to sell 10 million albums. I said, Ace, you can have your solo career and you can leave the band. Have your cake and eat it too.
The idea was maybe we could let this blow over and heal.
Let's all take time from each other and let's all do solo records and we'll bring it all out on the same day.
All right, here we go with the solo albums. And Ace did sell the most. And it was a hit. Gene and Paul make you feel like you're not good enough?
Great tracks on the KISS record.
A band, I believe, 9 out of 10 times is always stronger than a solo performer. But we had no choice. The solo albums, they were like a little band-aid to go in this gushing room.
About 4 or 5 months ago, a Newsweek magazine called Disco, the entertainment phenomenon of the 70s. It's here to stay.
Are they going into Dynasty?
The nightclubs, they are becoming the nightclubs.
Casablanca Records became the preeminent disco label anywhere down the summer of the Village People and so on.
Towards the end of the 70s,
I think I was right. They're going to get to Dynasty.
Casablanca. From my recollection, they seemed more concerned with when the blow was arriving.
Let's dance, get back.
Dynasty is a real reflection of where music was at that time. Disco was the rage, and KISS was kind of at a crossroads.
Can you explain why you changed the name to disco? I don't really think you really
Dynasty's not a disco album.
The song you're referring to as disco is really rock disco. I was made for loving you. It didn't really sound like KISS. It had more of a dance feel.
But it was something we couldn't.
And Gene hated it.
It was a no-brainer. This was a monster hit.
Gene hated
was that it pushed
I
us
Was Made for Loving You.
territory that we hadn't been.
And this is going to be your favorite song?
Oh, look at him.
All of a sudden, they went from being this kind of underground New York punk band to being in 16 magazine and Tiger Beat, and all of a sudden, little kids started liking it.
It's fantastic. We all love them. It's not like the best ones. He mentions the best.
I like Kiss because they got a hard driving rock.
I like Kiss. I like Kiss too, but I like Kiss in '77.
It became evidently clear just by looking out to the audience. You started to see
But now that's when I first saw Kiss, was the Dynasty tour.
We saw it as selling out. The only upside was that there were a lot of single moms showing up.
It's not cool when you're 18 to go to a concert and have old people, little kids there.
It was exciting.
It was not cool.
We were no longer the band we had been. The look of the band reflected who we had become.
Those costumes, man.
That was neutered, glamorous, kind of a cross between Vegas showgirls and a Disney picture. That's who we were at that time. We were in the midst of a tumultuous period.
we were lost. We were keeping the band together by very thin threads. Ace and Peter were going through bad behavior, drugs, alcohol stuff.
They're getting ready for surgery.
Historically, Ace and Peter would keep their problems off to the side. By the time we did
Tom Snyder's tomorrow. Hey, y'all hang out after this. I'm going to tell y'all something about the Tom Snyder show and some of that stuff.
Mr. Peter Chris, who was the drummer, Mr. Paul Stanley, who was the guitarist, and Ace Frehley, who was the lead guitarist.
Ma-
Although it's fun to look at today and people get a kick out of it, really what was going on was we had a member who literally didn't show up till the last minute and showed up drunk. When you see Peter laughing, it's really reveling in seeing how it's affecting Gene and I. It wasn't about it being funny. It was about the joy in seeing us squirming.
Oh my God. Stanley.
What goes through your mind? When you see other people screaming and crying and all that.
But look at Paul laughing. See that? Paul thought that was funny.
Ace being completely drunk, saying crazy stuff. I mean, the thing that makes people on the highway stop is a wreckage. The bloodier it is and the worse it is, the more people.
Look at Gene. He's so pissed.
Needless to say, I was really angry.
Of course you were.
It had reached a point in the band where you just kind of shrugged your shoulders and hoped for the best and realized the worst. Our philosophy was always whatever is going on in the band, you leave it at the bottom of the stair. When you go up on stage, your kids.
Other one, if they're gonna,
And into this
one they're gonna talk about Peter.
Marriages don't last. Friendships don't last. But somehow bands are supposed to last forever. Trouble in paradise.
I'd like to toast all my fans and
The alcohol and the drug use and the dysfunctional stuff started to hit the band heavy.
we wanted to become rich and famous, and we're rich and famous, so we got it. We had always spoken about all for one and one for all. This idea
So they're gonna take up tomorrow with Ace and Peter leaving.
but that got tested.
it became multi-millionaires. It was like too much too soon.
Ace and I thought the target, that's no secret.
But it was clear we couldn't depend on Ace and Peter. It's like going down the long highway with two tires that could blow at any time.
We were going forward with our foot pressed on the gas. And we all read the signs.
Oh, I saw a shot of Vinny.
We go off the cliff.
Okay. Yeah, I got really pissed towards the end of that because they really, really, really started going off on Ace and Peter on that. Um, they really, really, and the Tom Snyder show. I mean, come on. Gene was pissed off because he wasn't in control because Gene's a freaking control freak. So Gene was pissed off because he wasn't in control. Paul was actually laughing at some of that stuff. Paul wasn't at least uptight as Gene was. And man, I really hate that they kind of took it slow till they got to Alive and Destroyer, and then they just glossed over so quickly the albums after that and the solo albums and Phantom and then Dynasty and are now, and really was bashing Ace and Peter. And I've heard Gene use that analogy too, that you don't go down the interstate at 100 miles an hour with two tires that's liable to blow out on you. You just kicked out. You're getting ready to kick. Well, they fired Peter, and they're talking about how unreliable Ace is, but they begged Ace to stay in the band. They've never fired Ace. I hate people that say, well, they've fired Ace. They've got rid of Ace. And even Gene and Paul have said that. They never have fired Ace. Ace has left the band, and he has left the band a couple times and was asked to stay, and he's left the band. And they begged him to stay in the band back in the 80s. Man, I don't know. I love this. I love this up until they got to the point where I knew they were eventually going to get to having to talk trash about Ace and Peter, because Ace and Peter eventually got fired or was left the band, and they were going to have to get to that point. And Gene and Paul were going to handle it in the way that Gene and Paul were going to handle it, and that's talking trash about Ace and Peter, because it makes them look better. At least they talked about their own problems. But even then, I was insecure and I wanted to be on the road all the time. And Gene was like, I was overpowered with ego. They made it sound like those things were not bad things or didn't contribute to maybe them being those people that they were, and turning the band into this brand was what Ace and Peter didn't like about it. So I don't know. Don't know with these guys. Like I said, they're like my dysfunctional family that I love to hate sometimes. It's like I love them and I hate them. And so it was it was good. We'll do this again tomorrow. I'll do this again tomorrow, 9:00. I'll start maybe about 5 minutes early. If you want to jump in about 5 minutes early, I'll start about 9:00 Eastern time, or 8:55 Eastern time. And I did want to mention that they mentioned some things about they talked about Phantom of the Opera, or Phantom of the Park, and Paul said that magnificent celluloid example of a celluloid or whatever, very sarcastically. But I do want to have like watching parties with you guys on that, where we can kind of watch them and it not really be on a YouTube type thing, so we don't get knocked off. So I'm going to be doing things like watching Phantom of the Opera, not Phantom of the Opera, Phantom of the Park, and watching like the Tom Snyder show, and maybe watching Kiss in concert and the Paul Lynde show and some things like that, and us watching it together in a, not really a stream, but kind of like a closed session thing. And that'll be coming up sometime. But I do appreciate everybody kind of hanging out tonight. The comments have been really cool. It's been really cool to see. John B. Good said you need to do a show on the Tom Snyder show. It is epic. And I plan on doing something like that, but since YouTube won't let me show it, it'd have to be something where we do more of a kind of a closed session, and where it's just us watching it together, where I have it on the screen and we're all kind of watching it together. So let's watch the Tom Snyder show this Halloween. I think it'd be good once we get kind of later on in the year to do some things like that. Watch Phantom of the Opera. I keep saying Phantom of the Park. I keep saying Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Park. It's 11 o'clock here, so my brain's starting to shut down. But watching Phantom of the Park, Tom Schneider, Paul Lynn, those types of things. Maybe we can do that. So I'll meet you all back here tomorrow at 8:55 Eastern Time, and we will watch part 2. Till then, get some rest, and we'll see you tomorrow.